All right. Good morning, family. How we all doing here on the first day of fall, as Louis says. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Though I'm a little late today. I actually forgot last night to set the shows up, so they weren't ready for me this morning. So I had to come in here really, really quick and kind of set up the schedule. So I know folks will be late arriving today. So I apologize for that, and I also apologize again for my voice. I'm still not over this cold. I'll do my best today, but I'm hurting pup over here. We went to Vegas, as you know, for Craps for the Cure, and I came back with the crud, and then fought through it all last week, and then this weekend we went over to Pullman, Washington, for my daughter. She goes to Washington State. We went and watched the Apple Cup, which was a trouncing. But again, stadium full of 100,000 people, and 2 long car rides, and I'm not feeling it better. So I'm going to try and power through today. Hopefully, we get through this week and have some. I think I got some good conversations planned for the week. With regards to House Edge and that kind of thing. So hopefully we can make it compelling and my voice will last us. So let's power through, shall we? Here we go. Again, the bridge. I talk about this every freaking day, and I can't say all this stuff strongly enough, right? It doesn't matter what kind of play you want to make. If you want to make a low House Edge play, if you want to make a high House Edge play, you want to press to the ceiling, you want to same bet forever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but these concepts don't change, right? You can bet the lowest house edge bets on the planet and burn your entire bankroll if you're not careful. You can bet the lowest house edge bets on the planet, ladder them up without any kind of guardrails, and be in a huge ass problem. You can bet the lowest house edge bets on the planet, right? And if you're a high risk, high energy person, you're gonna have a shitty time, right? All of these things matter, right? When you combine the experience of being in a casino, right? Winning is the ultimate goal, obviously. You can't win every single time, but if you can identify, right, when you have won and walk away, or identify when the table starts going in a direction, positively or negatively, and lean in or lean out, it changes your experience financially and your emotional experience too. I think that having goals, I think that having your emotional control, I think all these things matter to the point where you could be, quote unquote, playing the best way possible, right? And have massive issues at the end of the day. You could be playing the worst way possible, but still walk out with a great experience if you're cognizant of how it all works together and it does all fit together. All right. So I did have a good weekend otherwise, though, as you can see. Although the Cougars lost, that sucks. But the Eagles pulled it out yesterday. The Seahawks didn't just pull it out, they dominated yesterday. The Mariners pulled it off yesterday. They swept the Astros in Houston, which was freaking awesome. They pretty much got the West locked up. Watch out for the Seahawks, by the way. The Seahawks are a sleeper, and nobody gave them any chance at all this year. I'm telling you, I drafted them in my fantasy league. My hard-coded 8 fantasy team, by the way, is going to put 200 points up this week. That defense in Philly or in Seattle is nothing to be trifled with. They're solid. That is a good freaking football team. Watch out for them later on, and I would say watch out for the Mariners too. I actually have the Hawks or the Mariners and the Phillies in the World Series this year. I made a futures bet last year, $100 on both to get there and $100 on both to win. That's going to pay off big. That's gonna be a nice. That'll pay for a trip to Vegas either way. When that thing comes through. But yeah, so far so good. Good sports weekend. Let's hope we have a good finish here. I didn't do very good in my what do you call it, league? The Pick'em league. I did terrible this week. A lot of weird upsets. A lot of weird games this week in the NFL. But anyway, let's move ahead. And talk about a couple things. Channel renaming I think is done. I'm going to go Casino Gaming Central. I was going to go Casino Gaming Lab, Casino Gaming Academy are my 2 favorites, but this one here seems to be the most generalized, one that fits the best. So it's going to be Casino Gaming Central, I think. I'll get the logos finished up here in the next week or so, and we'll launch a real channel here, hopefully pretty soon. Now, what I want to talk today about is the House Edge. We get a lot of grief from a couple of people, and I know the loud people get all the attention, right? But it's important to talk about what the House Edge means to you. And I'm going to show you another chart here that we did a long time ago, but I think that it fits in really perfectly with the discussion because you have to understand what the impact is, right? I always say the secret sauce in gambling is what isn't there in yellow. When I lose a little bit. When I win a ton, right? We want to make sure that we're we're not getting crushed when it's going bad, but when it goes good, it goes really good. That's like the idea, right? And I see Vegas Day Trip was here, right? So he's a guy, right, that banks on the ATS, right? When he wins massive, right? When he loses, I'm sure your losses aren't great, right? Because you're going for it. But you can't get the big win if you're not betting for it. And I think the low house edge plays, the pass line with odds, or the pass line by itself is a great low house edge play, right? It doesn't check all the boxes for me, right? It's a good way to play. And I play, if you watch me play in the casinos, I play a lot of low house edge stuff. I play a lot of pass line. I play it very aggressively. I do the big parlays. I'm trying to take the best advantage I can of a 48 to 51% bet, right? You're not quite 50-50 on that bet. So the only way to win down there is by capitalizing on chaos. And that's what I try and do with the low house edge plays. Otherwise, you're going to get destroyed. Just the fact of the matter. We'll do some runouts this week, I hope, to kind of not prove that out, because there's nothing to prove, but to show you what the difference is, right? But in pure math, here's what it looks like, right? And I think when you talk low house edge plays versus regular plays, that at the bottom there, critically important for you to really understand the math on this, right? If you're playing a game where the house edge is 1.4%, close, right about that, 1.37, 1.41, 1.4%, let's say for the pass line, right? If you make 100 bets at $100, they're taking $1.40 per bet, right? That's what the house edge does. It's the spiff, right, on the bet. They're getting about $1.40 per bet, per $100 that you bet. You bet 100 of them, you lose $140. Even if you win every time you're supposed to win, over time, that's about what you're going to look like. If you bet $100 on the 5, just a place bet on the 5, $100, and you bet 100 times, right? And that resolves 100 times, is what I'm saying. You're going to lose $400. That's the difference. It's not a small thing. When we talk about, the house edge doesn't matter. It does matter. And it matters in a big way when you look at bet sizing and time, right? The casino they focus in on time. Their number one thing is time, because time brings everything here. Time eliminates chaos in the casino, right? You can have chaotic rolls. You can have 35s before a 7, and it'll happen. You can have 37s before a 5, and that will happen too. The casino doesn't care about winning all those 30 bets in a row. They don't care about losing those 30 bets in a row, because they know that over time, it all comes down to just about where it's supposed to be. It'll never be perfect, but over 100,000, a million, 2 million, 10 million outcomes, they're going to be right where they expect. They're going to be right there. They're going to take $140 out of every $100 that are bet over the course of time. That's how they look at the world, right? So the guys who say don't play lowest house edge are looking at this and saying, look, don't give them 300 or whatever that is, $260. Don't do that, right? That's their thing. VDT comes out and says exactly what I was going to say earlier, which is high risk, high reward. You can't get massive wins when you're down in here. And you'll find that the low house edge plays are always about a tie. And I'll show you this tomorrow. There's going to be sometimes with the odds where it spikes up and spikes down a little bit because of the volatility. But you've watched Jeremy from Colorado do his thing. He puts the standard in almost every single day, right? Some days it wins, some days it loses. When he ran the thing with the standard, the pass line without odds and the pass line with odds, and guess what happened? He ran 10,000 pass lines, 10,000 pass lines with max odds. Guess what? They both won the same, or they both lost. They both lost 2 units, right? The odds are technically invisible. They're going to give you a little bit of chaos, a little bit of volatility, but in the end, that play basically ties. It just bleeds out 1% over eternity, and you will eventually bleed it out. It takes tens of thousands of rolls, but you will bleed it out over eternity playing that straight up pass line, even with the odds. There are times where you can catch a spike. Most of the time, it's this, right? As players, as gamblers, right? You want a little bit of spike. You want a little bit of up and down. Yeah, the downs suck, but the ups are where it's at, right? I think that's the key here. So I'm going to go to my screen share real quick. I'm going to show you something that I did a long, long time ago, and I think that this still it still may be relevant. Let's go ahead and see if I can't muddle through this here. Let's go to this screen, and I think you'll. Oh, where'd my picture go? Hello, where's old Johnny? We're not getting a camera. There we go. Good morning. I think it's not that one. Is it this one? There we go. Okay. All right. So this is a. I'm going to actually zoom into this a little bit here. Can I make this bigger? Hold on. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I want to make sure that it fits on screen better so you can see the all of it. Hold on one sec. Oh, it doesn't matter. I gotta zoom in. Hold on. It's just a little too small, and I know it's gonna be tough to read. So unlock that. Let me just make this a little bit like that. A little bit like that. Why should we care? Oh, actually, the title's still there. That's cool. All right. So this is a spreadsheet that I did a long time ago about the house edge, and looks at what the impact of it is to you. And I think that it's important to see this. Right now, I didn't put the pass line on here, and the reason for that is because it's hard to make this kind of a chart when you see what I'm going for here with a pass line bet, because it is two phases, right? So the two-phase bet makes that a little bit harder to really understand on this kind of chart. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's take the place 5 or 9. I'm going to use row 5 here as the example, okay? It's a 4 out of 36 chance to win, right? The odds against you are 6 to 4, but they pay you 7 to 5. So you bet 10, you win 14, you should have won 15. That's the house edge. It's that dollar that they're sucking off of you, right? The delta is that $1. It's a 6.67% suck job, right? Your expected loss is $1. Even when you win, you lose $1. And when I say lose, I mean you're giving up what you should have got. And that's okay, right? Remember, this expected loss, this edged loss I have here, this is the casino's profit on the bet. And again, I don't begrudge them. They're allowed to make profit. This is how they turn the lights on, right? This is no different than the grocery store marking up ice cream instead of milk, right? It's just how it works. But some bets, as you can see, are worse, right? The 4-10 place bet, not the buy bet, the place bet is a $2 expected loss, right? The play 6 and 8, 40 cents versus $1 versus $2. This play right here is pretty close to what you see with the pass line. Although the pass line's a two-phase play, it's roughly the same house edge as a 6 or 8. They're within 0.5% of each other, right? This is a good way to look at a bet, 40 cents over the course of time. Where the 3 and 11, 2, 12, 97, you're getting it at $5 given up on some of these bets, right? So it does matter over time. Here's where it matters over time. I'm going to show you a thing here. Now watch, we can ignore the roulette part. Just look at the bets up here. I want you to watch column K, okay, which is the wins behind. This is where it matters. So Waylon, you're right. It's irrelevant in the short term, but let me show you the long-term thing. And I asked this question to people before, right? How many times, and again, look at the place bet on the 5, how many times have you won on the 5 in your lifetime? Have you won 1,000 bets on the 5, right? Have you won 10,000? Let's just say you won 1,000 bets. You bet $10 on the 5 and you've won that bet 1,000 times. I probably won a bet on the 5 this past weekend 50 or 60 times just over the weekend, right? 1,000 is not a lot. You put 1,000 wins in here, okay? Look at what happens to you. This is the thing that people don't understand, right? The place bet 5 or 9, okay? After you've won 1,000 times and you've lost that dollar 1,000 times, they've taken the extra buck off of your win 1,000 times, right? Even if you win the exact number of times you're supposed to win from here on out, you'll be down that $1,000, which means you're 71 wins behind. We talk about the house edge being a race you can't win. When you have a negative EV, this is what negative EV looks like in dollars and cents, right? And here, you end up being 70-something wins behind. You need to win 71 times more than you lose after you've won 1,000 times to catch up what the casino stole from you on that spiff, on the house edge. That's the difference of it, right? The 6 and 8, it's 29 times. You're only 29, again, the 6 and 8 and the pass line are close enough that we can talk about it. You're about 29 to 30 wins behind compared to being 70 wins behind. It's a massive difference, in how much you get behind and never get caught back up. That's why we say over time, you lose and don't really realize it because you're getting paid. You're getting paid $14 and you're loving life, right? But over time, the slice off the top that they take is enormous. Look at the 4 and 10 without a buy bet. When you're not buying the 4 and 10, look at that. You get 100 and some wins behind after putting 1,000 bets in the 4 and 10. That's what House Edge does to you. And you don't realize it because you're getting paid. You're getting paid better than 1-to-1. You're loving life, and it's all good until you look at what the real impact is on it, right? So that's, I think, an important thing. So the casino looks at it, right? If you look at a full set of trials, like 720 full trials at a casino, right? They're looking at 720 full rounds of 36 rolls, right? The full, everything happens like the way it should be. On the 5 or 9, right, with a $25 bet, their net is going to be $7,200 after 720 full round 36 roll cycles. That's the casino's profit on some of these numbers, which is kind of insane when you think about it. The end result of this thing is that I say at the bottom, it's a pesky thing, right? We talk about it, and I know that I fall into this trap a lot of times too, which is it doesn't matter. Waylon says it doesn't matter. It does matter, right? It matters big time in the long run. And I know that in the short runs, right, it doesn't matter. Waylon says here, at the 50 rolls you're at the table, doesn't matter. That 50 rolls at the table, you might be upside down $15 to $30, whatever. You feel it, but it's not like it's the end of the world, right? The thing is, when you string together in a Vegas weekend, coffee run, lunchtime run, 4 hours at night, 4 days in a row, that $25 or $30 quickly becomes $200-300, and you don't realize it. Now, again, you don't have to care about it, but you got to be there, understand what's happening, and then make your decision. That's the important thing. So the House Edge is a pesky thing that does bleed you over time quicker than you think it does. And when you watch big runs of low House Edge plays, they do die, but they die really, really slow. They keep you in the game at the table doing your thing for a lot longer. Now, the cost of that is there's no chaos for you, right? And this is where I think all of us that are non-low House Edge fighters, whatever, will argue back. We win placing the 5 in chaos, in variance, in the swings, with, you want to call them trends, with table tempo, with streaks, whatever you want to call the crazy that happens at a table. You get 4 or 5 5s. The other day I rolled, I don't know, I want to say it was 4 or 6 10s on one of my rolls, right? That's a crazy variant. That should never happen, but it does sometimes, right? A low House Edge play doesn't capitalize on that. When you're on the pass line, you're not capitalizing on that run. Other players are, because they can hit it. Now, again, when it goes the opposite way, they can get hammered and get destroyed quickly. The low House Edge betting, less aggressive bets in general, don't create opportunity when chaos happens unless you're an aggressive bettor. When I say that, I'm talking about parlaying your pass line wins. I'm talking about leaning in with different patterns down there so that when it does go in some weird variant, you can hammer that win, right? That's the thing. You win or lose in the chaos. So if you're going to tie all the time, there's no up or down for you. You're just kind of there for the experience, right? If you find a way to lean in to when it does go chaotic, that's where the differences are. You can do it with low House Edge plays, but it's really, really difficult to catch, right? When it's a 50-50 bet, right, the wins are tougher to come by, or the bigger wins are tougher to come by. When you're below 50-50, 5 or 9, 4 or 10, right, and you catch a little bit of chaos, the higher payments allow you to take that opportunity, right? But the key is going to be this, and I think this goes back to the first screen, which is this. When you're in that chaos, when you have taken advantage, when you have caught the run and you've gotten ahead, identify that as an opportunity to stop playing when the run stops. Use your discipline to execute a walk over to the cage and get the hell out of here, right? I think that's critically important. And one of the things that Ken talks about all the time from Ken Knows Gambling, and Waylon talks about this a lot, there are strategies that they've created, these boring, Ken calls them bump on a pickle strategies. They are boring. So what? Winning is shouldn't be boring to you, right? So you got to make sure that you realize that having an eyeball wide open on what's happening to you is important. And playing the low house edge stuff is good if you can get out quick when it happens. But the problem is that just doesn't happen very often, right? Rhythm, I think, is the thing. So I think tomorrow and the next day, we're going to lean into some rhythm plays. I'm going to run for you probably 10,000 roll segments at a time. And we're going to look at plain house edge or plain pass line by itself, no odds. Pass line with max odds. We'll do a place bet on the 5 that's same betted, and a place bet on the 5 that has like, a short run built into it. I'll do like 4 or 5 variations for you so you can see the difference that I'm talking about in rhythm, because rhythm matters, right? Place bets catch rhythm different than come bets catch rhythm. Come bets catch a different kind of rhythm than a static place bet does. And we'll see some of that this week. I'm going to try and run some things out this week, get things set up for us to give you like kind of an eyeball on it, right? So I want you to have a good basis of comparison between the two ways of playing. And I'm not calling one way wrong and one way right. It's how you want to experience the game. And that's, I think, what it comes down to. If you want to experience the game in a careful, planned, quote unquote, boring way, fine. Play the lower house edge bets you can play. If you want to experience the chaos and you want to experience the rhythm and really have a chance to kind of go for the gas, and that's what drives you, fine. Play higher house edge bets in a different way. Just go into it eyes wide open. My whole thing is not forcing you down one road or the other, but giving you enough information that you can make the choice you want to make, eyes wide open, and say, look, when I get my tail thumped because I was going for a home run, I have to own that as a player. As long as you own it and you understand it, that going back a screen, instead of losing 140 over time, you're losing 400 over time. You're like, I'm okay with that. I'll put up the extra 260 in risk because I know that at some point I'm going to hit that ATS, or I'm going to hit the five times in a row on one shooter and get it all back. If that's the way you want to play, again, eyes wide open. Don't say Johnny didn't tell you what the truth is. That's what I want to get to. Okay, so all that to say, we're gonna bug out of here in a minute. I don't have time for questions. I got to get to work, and again, I'm not feeling the greatest today, so let's just move on. And I can cover some questions here in a later segment. But really, what I want to say is this: tomorrow we're gonna do some simple strategy comparisons. I'm going to look at house edge plays versus rhythm plays. We're going to do, like I said, flat pass line. We'll do the pass line parlay. We'll do a flat place 5. We'll do a place 5 with full presses. We'll do a place 5 with single unit presses. We'll do all the things. Okay. Compare them all together so you can really see what that trend line looks like over the course of time. And again, I think that it's important to understand, I'll do it one more time with you, how far behind you get. Right? How far behind you get when you win. And again, you win 1,000 times on the 5, right? You're down $1,000 over what you should have got paid. Now, it doesn't feel like it's a loss. What it is you'll never get ahead. Because when you lose the $1,000 because of lower payments than you've earned, right? When you win and lose at the exact right rate, you'll never catch up. You'll never outpace the losses. And here, 1,000 resolutions, you're 70 losses behind on average. Okay. You get into 100,000 losses, you're 7,000 wins behind. That's where the casino, that's how they pay the bills. Like, that's it, right? You're never going to catch up unless you catch a bunch of chaos, win a bunch of times in a row. And again, we can look at 1,000 wins. You catch those 71 extra wins before the next 7, never play again, and you're ahead of the casino. That's literally how this game works. That's how all these games work. It's a devastating thing to look at, the real impact of it. You're never going to get ahead of it. Now, can you enjoy your time? Yeah. Can you make some dough on some of those higher risk plays? Yeah. And when you do, you better identify it. You better get the hell out of town. All right. So tomorrow, next day, we'll do some simple comparisons. I'm going to try and compare things that make sense together so we can kind of see, again, some common rhythms. And I want to leave you with this note here. I always try and give you something inspirational. I heard the guy talking the other day about this, which I think is relevant in the world today. It may be relevant in this conversation even, right? And this is important. This is goes along with the Charlie Kirk shooting, right? And this is the end result of all this. We have forgotten how to hate properly. Okay, and I'm looking at people out there in chat that hate the way other people play, right? Think about this. The true soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind or next to him. That's a great quote right there. And I think I look at my show, the way that I teach, the way that I want to get this stuff through with that bottom part, right? I want to fight with you, right? Not against you. I think that there's merit to both of these things, right? There's also negatives to both of these things. And I want to make sure that we're fighting the fight together. I don't hate the casino, right? I'm not fighting them to destroy them. They're a tool to me, right? We as a group you've got artillery, you've got hand-to-hand, you've got all sorts of different ways to fight the casino, right? Or fight a war. We have to fight together in different ways to make it happen. And I think take this quote out there in the world, right? Learn how to hate properly. Fight with, not against. The person in front of you, the person you disagree with, is not somebody to be hated. You can disagree. You can have a difference of opinion. But at the end of the day, right, we're here as a group anyway. Let's fight together. All right? God bless you all. See you tomorrow morning.